All right. Hello, everybody. I think we're in. Hello, hello, hello. Yes. All right. Hi, everybody. Send me a message to say who you are just for fun. You don't have to, but go ahead. And please, if there's anything wrong with the sound or anything like that, just let me know. I am using my smaller green screen. I took down my huge rectangular green screen. This is just like a circle on the back of the chair, so you can see it's kind of moving around. But I don't think it matters. It should be fine. And yeah, whenever you guys have any questions for me, go ahead, just start asking away. I am gonna say a couple times, if you let me know if you want to do something after, like at the party last time, we played some games after. If some people want to stick around and play like chess or whatever for a little while, I'd probably be down for that. But yeah, hopefully this answers some questions for everybody. It's been a little while since I've done an actual Q&A, so I hope this helps definitely the old people that have hung around for a while, but especially the new people. Have gained a fair amount of subscribers since then, so I hope I see some new faces. Yeah, and I turned on subscriber only chat. I assume everyone's going to be subscribed anyway, but I'm forcing you to subscribe if you want to talk. I don't think, I mean, it'll be a long time if I ever turn on members only chat. I'm only uh let me know if you ever see a join button on the YouTube somewhere. I don't think it'll show join quite yet because I just applied for the membership thing, which is I'm gonna do 3 tiers, which is just like $1 a month is just show like extra support, and it's just like you're an extra loyal member, I guess, of the channel. I'm gonna have a middle one, which is what was it? Yeah, like I think I'm gonna do like bi-weekly only Q&As, members only Q&As, which is gonna be really good. Like for now, like really basically one-on-one time or like one-on-10 time with just a couple people, which could be really helpful for members only. And I also added one in. I added like a $30 in or something like that for obviously very expensive. It's for actually my time, like a one-on-one, like me sitting down with you, helping out. So I'm wondering if anyone wants to do that. And yeah, so if anyone wants to, why am I getting no chat? Come on, add some chat. Is there a reason? I'm confused. Is there a reason why there's no chat? Can someone please try something? I'm confused. I did change a different setting, so I'm wondering if I blocked something somehow. I don't know. Sorry, that's not supposed to be over there. Um, hmm, this is weird. Ah, there we go. Okay, it all came in at once. Maybe it was lagging. I don't know. um, all right. Hello, everybody. Salish, I was just talking to you on the Discord that you saw me pop up accidentally. Yeah, I was looking at your. So is it Intel? It said Intel, but it looked like normal pictures, like of the outside or something. Okay. Salish, can you tell me what that is? You might as well, because I was just trying to take a look at it. Basically, it was having trouble because the his validation and training accuracy were really high, but the test accuracy was freakishly low. So I saw you post that earlier in the chat, and I was looking, and it did not make sense to me. It must be some Intel image classification. Yeah, I'm so confused. I'll have to look into that in particular. Maybe it's that dropout thing. I don't know. Um, yeah, I'll take a look at that. Anyways, okay, people, yeah, are now popping in. So, hello. Um, any tips for anyone who's new to data science and trying to get a first job on how to create a portfolio? Yes, absolutely. So generally, what I do recommend for people that are like really brand new is to do the IBM data science. And there, luckily, I actually have. If you do want to get the certification, you're trying to get a job. So um, IBM data science is one of the things that will help you get a job. I don't think it's enough to get a job. I think you have to do a lot more than that. But it can be very helpful. And definitely just to get an introduction to the field, you could just audit the courses for free if you don't want to get the certification. But I do have a discount down below if you are looking to increase your portfolio there. But either way, I recommend that you start with that. If you really don't know much about data science, it's a good way to jump into it. And yeah, after that, so basically, I edited my description a lot for this live stream because I realized I was often suggesting similar things. I'm not going to say that it's the exact same conversation every time because it's not, but I often say similar things. And so one of them I recommend very commonly is to look at my video for my machine learning roadmap. Basically, I have that linked down below. It's the top link. And so it's just a few minute video that basically says, what I would do if I had to start over starting learning machine learning. And by the way, when you say data science, I'm going to associate that very closely with machine learning because I truly don't think you're a data scientist without knowing machine learning and deep learning. People might disagree with that, but I don't. I think it's the future. It's also the current. So you should start learning machine learning and deep learning as soon as possible. If you really don't know anything about the field, then the IBM data science is a good way to start that. But check out that video. And basically, what it'll say is do the machine learning by entering, do the deep learning specialization. It's really not quite as hard as it might seem. It's not super daunting. It's a really good way to get started. Discuss ML ops. So honestly, I would probably like it means a lot of different things. So for the people that don't know, sometimes I like to pop up definitions on the screen for the terms that are a little less known. So I'm just gonna actually I'll just read it so I don't get. I actually got copyright trouble for my party when I was playing non-copyrighted music, so it's really silly. But I'm just gonna be extra careful this time. So uh, to read a definition for everyone, ML ops is a set of practices that aim to deploy and maintain machine learning models in production reliably and efficiently. Okay, so it basically just means putting ML in production. And so to talk about that, I mean basically, you would use probably one of the popular cloud platforms like GCP, and I actually see that Krish asked a question about that, so it's going to be a nice merge into that. Very often, to put a machine learning model in production, the best thing to do is to like actually in production, like say you're a business, and so even if you're not a business, obviously you're a person, but if you're someone that's trying to get a portfolio out there, then you want to do as much as you can of what the business would be doing. And so they would probably be doing something like GCP, Google Cloud Platform, AWS, Amazon Web Services, or Azure, and something like that, because all you have to do is really put that model on there, and then Google or Amazon or Microsoft or whoever figures out for you, like, oh, okay, if a million people are accessing this, I got to start charging you more money. I got to start, um, you know, making this reliable to everybody. And so you don't really want to worry about that kind of thing. So honestly, that's when you would just kind of do the scalable stuff. Like the term is scalable for GCP or whatever. Um, but if you're not, that's totally fine. It can be pricey. You don't always get this for free if you're testing stuff out. There's Amazon free tiers. I think I'm not sure if Google has anything free. Um, but that's okay. So you can still do something like a full app that's running, say on Heroku. Heroku is very free, and so you can just make a Flask app, make a Django app, put that on there, and you can either use Docker or you can fight with requirements files and not use Docker. Put it on there, and that counts as ML ops. You're putting a model in production, and yeah, let me know if there's anything else you wanted to know there. But basically, that's how a company would do it. Most likely, is to do something scalable. They may do their own interior thing, but it's shifting away from that. Um, for a while, there's the whole like R shiny thing, which I would probably try to avoid. Okay, GCP versus Azure versus AWS, which is better for data science people, has more jobs, and easier to learn for beginners. So they all have roughly the same difficulty, in my opinion. So there, to jump onto it, it's not stupidly hard. It's a little bit weird. Once you get comfortable with the fact of, it just takes a little bit of comfort knowing that sometimes you're not doing stuff on your computer. Okay, so like the whole cloud thing, even Google Colab messes a lot of people up because it can be weird to think about how they're not like the code you're running, the code you're writing is actually being pushed to a different computer, which may even be pushed to several other computers. And so it's kind of weird getting used to that idea. But honestly, once you get past that, they're all pretty much the same difficulty. Okay, so GCP versus AWS versus um, definitely, I like how you asked all the different pieces because there are different answers to these. I would say fairly easy for everyone to at least get something up and running. If you follow a tutorial, you'll probably run into some errors, but it's not the hardest thing in the world. Um, but I've found that GCP is usually easier. And so I've done AWS before. I find that it just doesn't always work as it says it does, or if it does, it's hidden in a million documentation in some very long uh, document that is difficult to read. So I find that GCP was a little bit easier for me. It's not, no, it won't be running right now, but for the Know Your Fruit, my GitHub app or my partner's app, that's running a GCP model. Basically, we have an app that goes from like a phone that pings a Heroku server. That Heroku server is told to ping the GCP client, and it'll send basically an image across, and the neural network is sitting on the GCP, and that'll return its result back to us. And so I found that that wasn't overly difficult to set up. They have a lot of extra stuff in there that's not really required, like this whole pre-processing and post-processing information transfer. You don't really need that. It's really, uh, if you can learn how to set up a neural network there, that's pretty much everything. And yeah, I found it was easier. AWS just kind of, it has some errors for me, and it's where I'm not totally familiar with, although I've seen the interface a little bit. Yeah, hopefully that helped. Did I answer every piece of that? Better for data science people. I'd probably say GCP has more jobs. Oh, has more jobs. AWS. Okay, so maybe I'm not sure what the graph looks like, but AWS had a big early lead. They pretty much pioneered the cloud. There's other companies that did stuff earlier, like Dropbox, for example. You could argue pioneered the cloud, or even Apple did some stuff early on with that. But Amazon for the scalable, this kind of thing, they really pioneered cloud resources. So, do you have any tips for anyone who is studying data science but hasn't yet enough skills? Well, enough skills to do what? So, thank you, I appreciate it, by the way. So yeah, just write another comment, please, and say enough skills to do what? Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get a job? Or are you trying to just learn because you want to learn? Are you trying to get into like a master's program? There's a lot of different things, and my answer would change depending on that. Really appreciate that, Adrian. Absolutely no problem. And I will, while you're answering that, I will say the different scenarios. Oh, okay. Actually, I'll answer that. Is Google Colab enough for implementing object detection using TensorFlow? I think people have done it. I feel like I've done that Google search at some point. It's risky because object detection, although it's getting a lot faster, it is probably the most computational resource out there. It's very dependent on doing stuff in real time. So it's kind of tricky to send stuff off to the cloud at, getting 60, 30 FPS a second. It's kind of difficult to send all of this back and forth and get that result. So that's why it's very often done on the machine. I'm not sure what stuff like Tesla is actually doing. I'm not sure if that's open or not, but they do put GPUs in cars now because they need this stuff to happen quickly. And so Google Colab has access to GPUs, of course, uh, but it doesn't really. It's not going. It's first of all going to be very unreliable. It changes a lot. You could get Colab Pro, which would help. But this is something, and by the way, believe me, I totally agree with you with trying to do as much as you can on Colab. As long as your internet's pretty fast, you can upload and download files, and that's really all that you need, and you won't have to play too around much with libraries. But I would say yes, technically, but I would try to get that set up. If that's something you care about, if computer vision is something you care about, you may want to look into getting a good computer for yourself if you don't already have it. And if you do have it, learn to fight with the CUDA and all of those irritating libraries that'll, yeah, it's state of the art stuff, so kind of tricky to get a job because after getting a job, I think you'll get tons of opportunities to get more experience. Absolutely. Yeah, so my tips again, I will definitely recommend watching the video I have linked at the very top of this description if you haven't seen that already. That's pretty much what I say if you want to get a job in data science, just short and fast. I would do this roadmap where basically you take these set of Coursera courses, which are really, really phenomenal, and that'll get you where you're going. But the idea, sorry, the idea is that you need to get machine learning and deep learning as fast as possible. I think there's a huge misconception in that people think that machine learning and deep learning is impossible, or it's only for people that are not data scientists but machine learning people. No, it's like if you're a data scientist, I would really, really recommend learning all of the deep learning layers, like even get to embeddings and CNNs and RNNs. It's not stupidly tricky. It is kind of tricky, especially if you don't have too much of a statistics background. Even the idea of training these things can be a little bit wonky at first, but yeah, I would definitely get into deep learning as quickly as you can. Well, I'd be doing videos on end-to-end data science projects in the near future. Well, that makes me sound like you want me to do a data science end-to-end project, and so I absolutely can. So here's the thing, Krish. Um, I want to balance as much as I can the current people that are really loyal, such as yourself, as well as getting more viewership. I hope that's open and honest that I'm looking to gain viewership, and so to do that, it's hard to come up in search. So the videos that did really well for me, uh, PySpark. If you YouTube PySpark, it's like the third or fourth result I think, which is really really phenomenal given the size of the channel compared to other people's. Um, and so when I make a data science end-to-end project that's something titled kind of weird, where it's like how to make I don't know, how to do credit card detection, fraud detection, or something like that. It's hard to come up in search because people don't really search these things, and so I would really really rely upon people, my subscriber base, watching the video in full and not just clicking on it and leaving right away. So YouTube recommends videos to people based off of pretty much only two, three factors, which is the name of the title slash description, but mostly title, and how the video performs. So how many people clicked on it, and most importantly, how many people watched the whole video and gave like a big average view duration. So it's tough for me to make these videos when they don't come up in search, but I absolutely want to listen to you and everyone else that is supporting me along the way, and not just for the sake of supporting you. It's for the sake of obviously if you want this, then many many other people want this, and so I should try my best to do that as well. So if you noticed, most of what I put out there is based on search, and so I'll write something that is very commonly searched. But you're right, I should do that. I've been thinking about doing that, and yes, I promise I will do something. Just I'll call it just like data science project, and then whatever it is, something random. I'll come up with something 100%. Okay. Any other questions? Um, Here in second year of graduation, should you learn cloud or do it later? Freshman job. Everything requires it. So pretty much. at least in North America. I can't speak for India or many other countries, but from my experience, pretty much everybody works on the cloud, whether they say it or not. If they're not, it might just be doing like basic Excel stuff that you might not be too interested in. I would get on the cloud, and I just said this about deep learning, but I would get on the cloud as quickly as you possibly can because that's just what people do, and it's even what I do. Like I use Google Colab, it's on the cloud. It's just so much easier to have everything, pretty much everything running on a different computer. And so, yes, please at least set up something, okay? And no, don't be the guy that learns AWS and Azure and GCP for the sake of learning the cloud. Don't do that. Just make sure that you get the general idea, which is, I know how to set up a Heroku app. That's considered cloud because it's served somewhere else. Something caught in my throat. And basically, so yeah, Heroku's on the cloud, and then GCP is, on some other cloud in the US, whatever. As long as you get the idea that basically when you write code, it's often just being used on some other computer, and all it is that this code is being run on a different computer. This model is being served on this computer, and the idea of HTTP or JSON requests, where I either send information to you and you do something with it and send it back. All you're doing, on the website, as long as you understand that when I go to youtube.com, I get authenticated and I'm just asking for a different HTML based off of who I am and the information that I sent you. That's what cloud is, okay? It's just stuff being run on a different computer, and specifically GCP and AWS. If you want to set up your own apps, it's not really that hard, okay? It might sound hard. The word cloud is extremely annoying because it's like cloud, it's in the cloud. Like, it's just a computer that's running on the internet somewhere. And so anything that you can do on your computer, train a model or whatever, it can be done over there. And it's just a set of tools that allow to do that easily. GCP has this command line tool, or you can speak to it through Java or Python. Uh, just It's not super hard. Please, yes. And if you want, um, I think the best way to get used to that is inside a company already. And of course, that's not always an option. And so, what I would do is do that big data. There's a couple different cloud things I would suggest from Coursera, and just kind of doing your own thing. Like, if you wanted to set up a database on the cloud, just go do that. It's actually free on AWS. I think I've been charged, even though it's supposed to be free sometimes. I get kind of confused there, so I don't want to say anything for sure. But there is free tiers if you do it definitely the right way. Other channels do unlisted videos for topics that are not easy to get viewers. Unlisted videos for topics that are not easy to get viewers. They also use second channels as a way to get around the algorithm. Uh, uh, can you message me later about what you mean by that? Because I know what an unlisted video is, but that doesn't seem useful. Unlisted. I don't quite understand how that gets viewers, but I'll have to look into that. And please send me a message later because I want to hear about what you mean there. And yeah, so guys, please keep asking questions. Got about 10 viewers right now, so um, you know, I want to keep them. And for end-to-end projects, okay, yeah, no, I get what you mean. Yeah, I understand why you're saying it. I thank you. I appreciate the advice there. I'll please message me, and I'm curious about that one. Okay. Yeah, someone, lots of people watching, not too many people asking questions. Please, like, just say something. Like, I know something's on your mind. You wouldn't be here if something's not on your mind. So just let me know. Anyone here, just drop a question. Anything you're wondering. Are you nervous about something? Do you want me to talk about a certain certification? How do I think about it? How do I think about libraries or programming languages? And so many different things, please. About the projects, I think people like you are constantly searching for projects on YouTube, Medium, and LinkedIn. So, what do you search? Actually, let's talk about that. So, do you search data science project? Because imagine that you did search data science project. I would have thought that you saw a million results that had so many viewers. Is that not true? Like, is there not enough data science videos, just things called data science project video? Like, what would you call it? Because I would title it something like uh, predicting housing prices. That's a super common one, which would come up with a million results. Or I could title it something like, predicting tree like leaf fall. I don't know. I'm just looking outside and trying to think about stuff. So I don't know what you'd search to get the results unless they're very well known topics that would already have videos on, like, exactly. Okay, so studying, and I'm not trying to complain. I'm really trying to be curious and dig about, because like I'm trying to figure this out too. So thank you. I really appreciate the help. Just trying to understand what you would search and what you're seeing, but you're not liking enough, or you just like the fact that my main help here is that I feel like I can explain things better than a lot of other people. I'm also willing to put in a lot more video editing than other people, and they're just making videos that are like, so this is how you do this, and I try to like make it really clean edited, and so you can follow it really well. So is it just that? Like, is that the reason that you're wanting this, or you say you're searching for people are searching for projects? Yeah, like what do you do, what do you actually search? Like, what would you search into YouTube? Studying data science from your Coursera pathway since a while. What level of proficiency would I achieve after finishing it? That's great. That's great. Yeah. So basically, at the end of it, you would be pretty good at all of deep learning. So you'd have a general idea about, you'd know how to train models, whether it's machine learning or deep learning. You'd understand testing, validation, test training, test validation sets, how to train models, how to pick between models, when you see a problem, how to get the right model to, what layers to pick if you're using a neural network, or how to make a baseline model to compare with something more complicated. All these different things that are fundamental to everything, you would know all of that. And so theoretically, you could solve just about any problem that you could get data for. Not all problems are well suited for machine learning and deep learning, such as, doing, setting up like a web server and doing HTML, uh, HTTP requests or whatever. Like, that's obviously not meant for something like deep learning, at least not yet. Sometimes things are just meant for programming. But what I mean by this is that in general, any problem you could think about solving with deep learning, that's the level of proficiency that you would have. Is you know if so this is this computer vision, okay, well, I could use a CNN for this, or I could use, one of the more complicated ones like object detection and expansion on that, basically. Or if this is, I'm trying to do a regression problem, okay, does this actually make sense to use even something like an embedding layer from a neural network? You would know a lot of different vague, general problem solving skills that are going to help a lot. But uh, after that, you would really need to focus on what you want to get a job. So I left it kind of open ended, because I feel like from there you would just need to really pursue something in particular: computer vision, natural language processing. You don't need to pursue something like regression, but the idea of solving various business like problems is kind of its own subfield as well. Okay. Could I explain how to choose the correct metric evaluation? Metric evaluation. So basically, I think what you're asking is, how do you always determine what is the best way to interpret if a model is doing well or not? So this is kind of inherent in a loss function as well. Is basically like, if you're doing a regression problem, you kind of just learn these things over time and studying it. Is that, okay, how would I measure the error on a regression problem? Well, I'm measuring I'm predicting a continuous value and comparing it to an actual continuous value. Well, I'm going to think about the difference between those things and then probably sum those up. So I could think about like maybe a mean squared error after I take the average. Or if I'm doing, something like categorical classification. Okay, so I'm trying to predict between cat, dog, or some other animal. Well, what would make sense for that? Well, it's going to be some sort of accuracy measure, because I'm doing, I could either get this right or I could get it wrong, and so that I could get like a 90% accuracy. It kind of just becomes intuitive after a sense. And in terms of all of those complicated ones, if I'm saying stuff that you already know, and you're asking for the more interesting things like what are they called, like F1 or precision and recall, all of that kind of thing. Um, Honestly, I wouldn't worry too much about it unless you're in a business and they actually kind of specify which one is more important. Like for example, in like healthcare versus self-driving cars or whatever, precision versus recall is you have to think about these ideas, what's more important, and that's how you'd penalize your model. But yeah, in general, you just kind of get this over time, solving various problems. How can I be an expert in Python from a beginner? For the past month, I've learned various libraries required for data science using free code camp. Cool. So, an expert in Python, honestly, you could become an expert in Python just by doing stuff. And I know this sounds stupid, but Python is such a general purpose library that you get so comfortable with it just by thinking about literally anything you'd want to do on your computer and then just using Python because there's always the Windows command prompt or there's the Linux or Ubuntu prompt or all of these different languages that you could choose to interact with the computer, but Python solves like every problem. Like it does everything pretty much. Maybe you can't make Android apps. I answered that question earlier today. But just learn Python by writing Python code. I could suggest so many different things like free code camp or certifications. Sure, they're great for introduction, but to become an expert in Python, just write a lot of Python code. Do data structures and algorithms work? That could really help you out. Solve lead code problems. Just whenever you're doing any machine learning stuff or data science, if that's why you're here, then yeah, just write all of that in Python code, do various things, read blogs, you'll get better at Python. And it is extremely important. I think it's probably the most important skill there is just being good at Python. Being able to build lists quickly. It's useful libraries like NumPy, Pandas, Scikit-learn, TensorFlow, Keras, um, I, PySpark is what I was trying to think of. PySpark. Getting comfortable with those, just use them over time. It's going to really help. You just search data science end-to-end projects. We get thousands, and Krishnate comes up all top results. Yeah, so I get it. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right, Krish. So I'm gonna dodge this. Actually, we'll have a conversation about that later because I don't want to take up the time. So thank you. Yeah, let's talk about that later. Think to build a portfolio, people search for project ideas which they can add. Yeah, project ideas. I completely agree with that. I do have a video that did fairly well about project ideas as well. How to prepare for math? Do you need knowledge of data structure and algorithms to step into ML? Okay, great question. So, prepare to for the math stuff. Well, if since your next question was about machine learning, I assume you want to learn machine learning, and it's true. There's a heck of a lot of math governing machine learning stuff. There's calculus and linear algebra and statistics, and people claim probability. Probability, of course, if you really look at the underneath all of the statistic stuff, it's there. But what do you actually need to learn for calculus? Understand what a function is, what a function with multiple variables is, how to graph it. So, I can think about an x, a y, and a z axis, and then just realize that you can extend this into multiple dimensions. And normally, you wouldn't graph that because it gets really tricky, but know that you can. So, functions, and then what a derivative is, and maybe what an integral is, although you won't see integrals very often. Derivative is how what a slope means, what a tangent line is. Those ideas, you're fine. So Google those things. If you really care, you could read a calculus book. But honestly, that's why in my machine learning course, I cover the stuff that I think you need, which is derivative rules. Even derivative rules is a tad excessive, but I think I try to do it just to make sure that people get what a derivative is. And once you're there, you're fine for calculus. For linear algebra, you need to understand what a vector is, what a matrix is. And by the way, if you Google what a vector is, you might see it has a magnitude and a direction. Yes, that's true. But in linear algebra, you're not really going to see that. That's what you'll see from physics. And so for linear algebra, know what a vector is, know what a matrix is, know how to and why people are doing operations like this, like a matrix vector multiplication, like a dot product. It's just a way of doing stuff at the same time. Okay, like a matrix vector multiplication, it's just trying to do 10 different things at the same time. And so we can parallelize that in a computer very well. Okay. So, how would you learn that? Again, sure, there's a linear algebra book, but again, I try to cover those things. Andrew Ng tries to cover those things if you want to look at those courses. Probability and statistics. Probability, I wouldn't go too far in. I would understand what a random variable is. Uh, I wouldn't go too much into it. Statistics, definitely from just like a regression point of view, understand regression really, really well. And there's great regression textbooks. And again, every machine learning course will probably cover regression moderately well. So as moderately, as in they'll skip a lot of the core statistics stuff, but the general ideas will be in there for sure. So for regression, it's very important because it still teaches the ideas of training a model, and most importantly, which is synonymous with training a model, learning parameters. So it's about learning simple linear regressions, about learning beta naught and beta one. As long as you get the idea of you have some cost function, which is the MSE, the mean squared error, you're trying to use this calculus and linear algebra stuff to learn those parameters. That's if you get that, then all of machine learning makes so much more sense. And again, if you want to learn something like regression, there's a textbook, but it'll probably be covered. So try to find a course that covers those things. I think it's a huge waste of time to, unless you're already getting university degree in these things, then that's great. That's how I did it, but I don't think you need to understand integrals at all really to get machine learning, which is a huge piece of calculus. It's all of Calc 2 and half of Calc 3, I guess. Derivatives and multivariable derivatives is very important. Okay, do you need knowledge of data structures and algorithms to step into ML? I'm just going to say yes. Honestly, uh, it's just so difficult to not use like dictionaries or lists or arrays or any of the other like sets even come in play. It's so hard to read anyone's blog or to learn this material unless you do know data structures and algorithms. Do you need stuff like depth first search and dynamic programming and all the graph stuff? Sort of yes, sort of no. I think it's okay to learn it, but I don't think it comes into play too much. I would more so focus on data structures than algorithms. Algorithms is just doing stuff on those data structures, but often, it's not quite as useful in practice in my mind. But it's very, very helpful, and learning it for at least once would be helpful. Yes. Best in one, best source. There's an algorithms. Check my video that's linked down below. It'll talk about a algorithms course from Stanford. I would probably do that if you want to. That's pretty crazy though. It would not be easy at all, and so I wouldn't really spend too much time on that. It really just comes from Python stuff. Using dictionaries, using arrays. If you get comfortable with that, you're kind of also going to just start doing the thing that's fastest because Python has it set up for you. How can you go into research in AI and ML from a job in data analysis? I've wanted to do research in mathematics, but now I'm interested in machine learning. How can I join these two? Uh, you kind of need to get a master's, and honestly, even a PhD wouldn't hurt if you want to do research in AI. It's not impossible, but research generally means you're, you know, kind of working ish for somebody else, like under a fellowship. And I would probably do what you can to get a master's. And to do that, you probably need an undergraduate degree in something sort of ish similar, maybe not. But what I would recommend for somebody, whether this is true or not for you, get an undergraduate degree in statistics, get a master's in AI or data or statistics, something like that, and then you would start researching those things for that. You could do research on your own, but I probably wouldn't recommend that. Let me know if there's anything there I didn't, if I didn't address. What are the useful resources for learning statistics and algebra relevant for data science and ML? Yeah, so I did sort of kind of answer this. I assume this was already written while I was maybe being written while I was talking about that, but that's okay. So the best resources for learning stats and algebra, which algebra really just means linear algebra in this case, it's usually taught just fine in the machine learning courses. So Andrew Ng's machine learning, if you haven't taken it, take that first and really struggle with it before you decide that you need more stats knowledge or more calculus knowledge or anything, because you can really just get by without it, in my opinion. But who am I to say? I guess I knew it beforehand. But that's my opinion from looking at it. if you do want to learn specifically the stats and algebra relevant for data science and machine learning, you should read what's called the Deep Learning book. It is uh, insanely difficult, and so I am recommending something based off of the exact question, but am I recommending it based off of my true opinion? Not so much. The Deep Learning book by like Bengio or whatever, and a bunch of other people that are very well known in the field, is extremely difficult, but it does give a few chapters at the beginning that give a nice warm up that they think is enough for you to understand everything. And they do say several times consult other resources if you want to learn more, but this should be all that you need. How to land first internship in machine learning or data science and what the company expects from interns. Well, most companies don't expect too much from interns. Unfortunately, sometimes interns are a little bit shoved to the side, but in general, and hopefully, I can tell the company I'm about to work with, they're going to treat co-ops co-ops or interns very, very well. Uh, so what they would expect from you is definitely understand how to use a computer really, really well. And I know this might make me sound like an idiot, but seriously, no Excel, no Outlook, no uh, understand files, different files like JSON files, and just saving stuff and moving it, uploading it, downloading it is really the most important thing that you can do. And most people honestly don't have that base computer knowledge, and it bugs me. Learn how to use your frickin' computer, ignore machine learning for a long time, get comfortable with that. Once you think you're really good with a computer, and you'll get that through just experience. Um, what they expect from interns is definitely to be able to analyze data and to be able to say something interesting about it. And that's basically to be able to pick up whatever ecosystem they have is, something if they use pandas or, PySpark, then that's great. You should be able to pick that up. If they use R, then you should be able to use R and pick that up. If they know, most companies use a lot of Excel, and so, still, understanding how to use Excel is very important. And so, just the base data analysis stuff is going to come up a lot. Now, since you said machine learning, I think, where's the question? Yeah, so machine learning or data science, they do really hope, and this is just where to stand out, and this is why I say it over and over again for getting to deep learning as fast as possible. They may not expect you to know deep learning, but it is ridiculously, extremely important for you to know deep learning. And so, at least if you see someone's neural network model, like their different layers, like, okay, I can at least understand what they're doing here. They're trying to maybe forecast demand here, and I can see why they'd use these variables and then use these neural network layers. Maybe you wouldn't be able to completely have built it yourself, but you could at least, get an idea of what's going on there. So machine learning and deep learning, definitely the whole idea of model training. So like train, test, validation sets is extremely important. Overfitting versus underfitting is a similar conversation and very, very important to understand all of those things. And so you really should you should just have trained a bunch of models, solved a bunch of different problems on your own, and then you can be able to pick up the ecosystem fairly well. So the biggest thing you can do for them is to be able to pick up an ecosystem quickly, which really just means have done a bunch of different things, but stick with one programming language still. I don't mean go ahead and learn 50 million things. I mean get really good at Python, because most likely, honestly, they'll probably just be using Python if I was to take a guess. And so get really good at Python, its libraries, PySpark. I'm saying PySpark because they're a company, and so they need a lot of big data. They're probably using Spark, pandas, all of this common stuff. And for data science and machine learning, yes, do the deep learning specialization or machine learning course, probably both. And I have that stuff linked below. Really, really recommend. If you wanted to show employers that you know that stuff and you're trying to get this job, then put the certification on your resume, on your LinkedIn. It would help a lot. Thoughts on data science roles that involve machine learning, but do not categorize it as ML. Well, so that is this thing. So thoughts on data science roles that involve machine learning, but do not categorize it as machine learning. Yeah, I mean, I've been there too. I've done searching for keywords and tried to type TensorFlow machine learning when they actually are using it and it doesn't show up. Uh, but my thoughts are that employers are lazy a lot of the time, quite honestly. Like, if it's not lazy, it's just that HR is involved in honestly way too much of the job selections, not selection, but the job process. So, like writing stuff for other people, often HR will be tasked with, getting a decent idea from some manager about what they're doing and what person they're looking for, and they'll write it themselves. And so, yeah, honestly, my thoughts are if it says anything to do with data science, no machine learning really, really well. That's why I try to change this stigma, which is like, data science is just like a fancier analytics. No, I'm pretty darn sure in my mind it means machine learning and deep learning. It would really, really help you out if you can do that. So, regardless of what they say there, put it on your resume. Say you know training, test, validation sets. Say you know the model fitting process. You know deep learning layers and different neural networks. And if you don't, really, 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 really recommend learning that stuff, TensorFlow and deep learning stuff down below. Do I really need to do some intermediate level of data science before jump? It's a tough question for me to ask. Like, I don't really know what intermediate level of data science is. To me, that kind of says something like Spark or um, like scikit-learn, maybe. Um, it's tough for me to know what intermediate level really means there, but basically, I think you need to jump into machine learning as soon as possible. I don't think it's as related to analytics, like number crunching, as people really say that it is. It's kind of a little bit separate. Of course, it uses all of the same technologies, except what I'm just saying is that you can really isolate it in your mind and just go learn machine learning, really, no matter who you are. I do recommend something basic if you really don't know what's going on, like the IBM data science, except as soon as you get some basic knowledge, please just go do the machine learning thing, deep learning thing, get set up with that. And if you're running into trouble and you really don't understand what's going on, even after watching the video several times, then, figure out what's missing and then go learn those pieces. You have a good enough knowledge of data structures and algorithms as I do competitive coding. Well, good for you. Smarter than me. But in C++, so should I learn data structures and algorithms in Python and do Python programming to help you in data science? Well, I mean, Chris, you'll have a nice, healthy, long, permanent career in C++, probably. I highly doubt it would ever die, and it's in huge demand. Definitely, someone like NVIDIA would be extremely happy if you're great at C++ and you go into stuff like CUDA and help them out there. I get rejected by them because I know C++, but I don't know all of that stuff underneath. I'm not a C++ god like you are. I don't know how good you are. I'm just trying to say, for someone that really knows C++, believe me, it's really great, and just be you. This one, do your thing. If you enjoy C++ coding, then there's a career for you there that you would really enjoy because you like C++. And don't listen to someone if they say that you should learn Python because C++ is dying. It's not true. You'll be fine. Um, it's just not as fun for me to code in, and it's not quite as popular because people don't want to learn C++ because it's more difficult. And so if you already got it down, learn those libraries, do machine learning with it. Believe me, people need you. A lot of people need you. What are your thoughts on data science roles being kind of all over the place? Analyst roles titled as data scientist. I think the problem is that I'm trying my best to change this, and I'm going to try and make more videos about this just to the sole purpose of changing the mindset is that there's so many different terms involved in there, and it's more so just the evolution of names. So by the way, neural networks have been around for years and years and years, like decades. um, Analytics has been around forever. Like people were doing statistics on paper in like Greece or whatever, and it's often a lot of the same thing. Regression was, a very long time ago, model training. And so, yeah, it's a big issue there because people just kind of put a title on the job, say either analyst or data scientist, and then it honestly means very close to nothing. So you really have to read what it is. What I will say is that if it does say something like machine learning engineer, natural language processing, deep learning, computer vision, any of those type things, any of those words, you know that what follows in the description is going to be machine learning or deep learning stuff that is current and meant for a data scientist. The problem really relies or lies in the business where there is a lot of analytics roles, which is really just, you know, they need someone that makes sense of data. And that's all they mean by that is they have this huge ecosystem of data. They have, many, 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 maybe even thousands of SQL tables where they know, the manager knows like, okay, there is so much value in this, and I could hire an intern or somebody to either clean it or make a model out of this, and I'm sure it would benefit the company, or just do analytics on it and just produce some valuable results like some graphs or whatever. Okay, when I think analytics, I more so think graphs, maybe a basic regression or a basic forecasting model, and not machine learning stuff. But when they put an analytics job in the title, so analyst, it honestly could mean anything. If they could put machine learning or deep learning in there, it means machine learning or deep learning. When they put analyst in there, it might mean that you don't do any machine learning or deep learning at all, but that doesn't mean you can't. And so that's why I try to make this as clear as possible to learn machine learning and deep learning is that once you get thrown in the ecosystem of an analyst, then you can do whatever the heck you want. Sure, they might force you to do a bunch of things and they might suggest to you things, except you're in the ecosystem now. And if you know machine learning and deep learning, just go do it. And they'll be very, very, very thankful that you do that. And you'll get into a job and you'll meet people that are actually doing this at the company, or you'll at least, move something up and people realize like, oh, well, how'd you do this? Well, I used a TensorFlow model. Oh, okay, we'll do that now. So that's my thoughts is basically read the description very, very closely. If it says something like analyst, and if it says machine learning or deep learning, they're probably not lying to you. They might just for the sake of being hip and trying to get you on a job that isn't really what the job is. My recommendations here is to drill the interviewer with questions. If you do have an interview, really just keep asking them like, like what are you guys doing? What's your ecosystem? What technologies are you using? What problems are you trying to solve? What problems do you have? All these questions, and that's when you'll actually figure out what you're doing. But if it says again, if it says machine learning or deep learning or natural language processing or computer vision, any of those type of things, you're good to go. Um, okay. Would it be possible to add caption? Is there not captions? Really? Thank you. I'm sure it is possible to add captions. I thought there was. I don't know. Edit. Okay, let me look. I can change it right now. Customization and no details. Category. I think it should be there. Is it not there? It says captions are there. Stream language English, title and description English. I don't know. That's okay. Sorry. Wow. Arshia, you did something. Is it a donation, or did the member thing show up, or is that just a donation? That's so nice. Uh, thank you. Okay, so where was I? Where was I? Thank you for the keywords to describe machine learning in the resume. That is ridiculously good. Yes. Okay, let me just talk about that again. The machine learning words in the resume. I hope you know that you're not talking to a human eh, most of the time. Like it'll be a very small portion of resumes, unless they're a person that actually says, we scan all of our resumes by hand. Even if they do, they're probably still run through a computer somehow. And whatever, maybe if they're not, that's great. But you got to spam keywords like crazy. Like they have to be relevant. And if you really want to increase your probability of getting a certain job, you need to match their exact wording. Because I wish it was true that scikit space learn and scikit dash learn were the same thing, but maybe in some maybe in some online checkers they are. But honestly, I would I would doubt it for a lot of things. So read over their wording very, very carefully. Uh, like if they're writing the NumPy stack and you had the SciPy stack, NumPy and SciPy aren't the same thing. So you got to be very careful and definitely get those keywords for the computer's sake. But also, when you do see a human, you also, at the same time, you also will never get an interview without talking to or without it seeing a human or without a human seeing it. And so you have to have the words that would make them interested in you. Okay, so whatever that job entails, that's most important. But also, don't, at the same time, don't worry too much about exactly what it says. And just because they don't have something like um, maybe they don't have something like TensorFlow or Keras on the job itself, on the description itself, that doesn't mean that having it is not a massive asset. Okay, so yeah, be careful with the keywords for sure. This is why I'm off Messenger right now. I am, yes. uh, Continued. That person mentioned that if they saw the title, they would have never applied for the job and assumed they were not qualified. If they saw the title, they would have never applied for the job and assumed they were not qualified. I don't quite know what you mean there. Roadmap to learn TensorFlow, really good start. So, by the way, just before you get caught here, roadmap to learn TensorFlow, please learn Keras and not TensorFlow. Keras is a subset of TensorFlow. I really, really think that you mean learn Keras when you say learn TensorFlow, because it's just a pain in the butt that you don't really want to go down. There is a certification down below that really helps, and you can also audit the courses and for free if you don't want to show employers that you know this stuff. It is, some money, so I don't blame you for that. But the resource is free. You can go ahead and learn that. Really good material. It's a nice guy. That's you know, he's very very clear with his English. I just found it a little bit boring when I was trying to do it, but I had already learned TensorFlow. How I would learn TensorFlow or learn Keras is just to go do stuff. And so make a CNN, make a convolutional neural network, make a regression model, make a classification model, do really just about anything that Keras does, and you'll get the idea. Basically, for the rundown for people is that Keras is ridiculously easy once you have deep learning and model training concepts in mind. And so basically you just add layers to a neural network. You specify what your input and what your output should be. And the loss function, if you don't know, just look it up and you'll see that it's categorical cross entropy or whatever it happens to be. Okay. It says captions are unavailable. That is weird. Why does it say that when I clearly say that captions are English? That's weird. Sorry about that. I'll try to speak extra clearly then and maybe a little bit slower. Um, yeah, so roadmap to learn TensorFlow, just go ahead and just do stuff. Solve problems using Keras, make neural networks. If you don't understand what neural networks are, then I wouldn't learn Keras quite yet. I would get a more math underpinning of that first. But after you're ready for that, just jump into Keras, make a model, and do the deep learning specialization. I believe they use, yeah, they do use Keras eventually. They actually do a lot of building it up by hand at first, but deep learning specialization down below, and then TensorFlow specialization is also going to be very helpful. Both down below. I like competitive coding, but data science and machine learning have been more interesting. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. So now I'm writing two both at the same time until I figure out what I'll finally do, hopefully till next year. Yeah, I mean, it's great. They both work together, man. Like, honestly, competitive coding will make you better at doing everything. Doing machine learning, it's for any analytics field, it'll be great. So, yeah, just keep doing it. I don't really have any meaningful advice there. I think you got it down. Just do whatever you want the most. Join through your LinkedIn post. Good, good. I'm glad. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Uh, Donation to stand out. Yes, you you stood out. It makes a huge rectangle. Um, First donation ever. So thank you, Arshia. I really, really appreciate that. Um, I'm Yeah. By the way, everybody, I'm literally never in my life gonna ask you for a donation. If you feel like being really, really nice to me and you want to show extra support, then by all means, it helps out a ton. But I will never ask you for that. Thank you, Arshia, though. I really appreciate it. Um, Greg is rich. I am filthy rich. Yes, I know person with role as quantum machine learning data scientist. Good for them. They did not know the title until onboarded by HR. Had they seen that title when applying, they would not have assuming they would have assumed they're not qualified. I would assume that I'm not qualified for quantum machine learning data scientist. Oh man. um, I mean, good for them if they are. I would have thought that you had to understand quantum mechanics, which I certainly don't. I could say two things that may not even be right, but that's cool. Yeah. Okay, so everybody, yeah, please ask some more questions here. I got to the bottom, 17, 18 viewers. I know probably 17, 18 of you still have questions to ask, so please go ahead. I'm just going to look up and see if there's anything I missed here. I'm really curious about the captions. I'm confused about that one. Uh, Also, if anyone, if actually, you know what, I'm gonna take like just a really, really small break, like literally 30 seconds. So I'm just gonna throw an ad. Please don't leave, and I'm gonna be right back. Okay. All is still good, right? Yes. Let me just check OBS. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so I can send you the application. All right. Quantum is predicting customer trends for them. Okay. I mean, I probably won't understand it, but yeah. Just, you didn't get it. Why did? Okay, what is YouTube doing? It says captions are enabled, and it also says that I inserted an ad. So I have no idea. You literally just saw me walk away, and I was just sitting there, or I was just there was just an empty chair. I discourage the use of machine learning because it's really difficult. Unless you have to use machine learning, don't do it. Did someone write that? Who? I'm searching for that. I'm confused. I discourage? I didn't say that. Okay, Haas. I don't know why that's being put in a quotation, but um, I definitely don't agree. That can change if you've got a humanoid robot that can understand normal instructions, but generally minimize the use. Who? Oh, sorry. It got okay. Please try to write it in one big thing, otherwise it gets mixed into others. Um, okay, Arshia, thank you. What do you think about Elon Musk's opinion? Uh, does he not? I really? That's not machine learning. Elon Musk's opinion about machine learning in Tesla AI Day event. He answered a question. He also spoke out against machine learning. I discourage the use of machine learning because it's really difficult. Unless you have to use machine learning, don't do it. That can change if you've got a humanoid robot that can understand normal instructions, but generally minimize the use of machine learning in the factory. I would be insanely surprised if Tesla's a like computer vision. It doesn't do anything to do with convolutional neural networks. If they actually like, because he runs by, I mean, I guess, yeah, I guess not. It's not really my area, and I don't really know too much. I'm just really surprised that that's not true. I'm actually going to read about that after. Um, I read Tess or Elon's book, but that would have just barely not incorporated the computer vision part. So I'm very, very curious about that. Yes, Arshia, thank you. Okay, yeah, still, 13, 14 people that have questions, please ask me something, because I really know that you, I'm not saying it because I'm trying to bother you. I know that you have questions that are ready to be answered, uh, doubts or, anything, even go technical stuff, like it's totally fine. In that context, Elon Tesla manufacturing got too complicated because he tried to automate too much and it throttled his production. Um, he tried to automate too much. Uh, I guess. I mean, his factory is like they do like as much as they possibly can in house, and I would be shocked if they didn't. automate as much as they possibly could because they like so he almost ran out of money because you know well, a couple different reasons he was running out of money, but they needed to sell cars quickly, and then after they couldn't even keep up with producing cars, and so is I would have thought that they tried to automate that as much as they could, but I don't know. This is out of my zone. The creative bottlenecks he talked about it on Joe Rogan podcast. Okay, yeah, I mean he says a lot of different things, and honestly, you can change his mind all the time. So honestly, I love him. One of my biggest idols. I also don't want to claim I understand all of what he's doing because I definitely don't. Uh, but yeah, I mean that's interesting. Maybe we can maybe send me a message. Honestly, I'll talk to you later about that. That's very interesting to me. Um, okay, yeah, please, guys, ask some new questions. I would really appreciate that. You know, anything. Seriously, data science, machine learning, big data. Who is my you're my role model, Arshia? Uh, who is my role model? Well, I mean, obviously, my parents. I think a lot about looking about how they behave, and that's how I would try to behave. Take the good pieces from both of them. Obviously, everyone has bad pieces, and I try to not take the bad pieces of them. Uh, my role model I look up to aside from those, yeah, I mean, Elon's pretty big one. I'm sure that's why you're asking. You know that he really is, and it's because like the work ethic, honestly, other than you. Elon's work ethic is absolutely insane and way more than I could ever possibly do. But he is actually known to go on video game binges where like he'll just get caught on like some video game for a few days. And there's like I've even watched videos of him talking about like his favorite games, and I think he said that he really liked Overwatch, I'm pretty sure. Um, Elon is awesome. When Tesla got caught throttling the EV range of the cars, he owned up to it, paid the settlement, and said on Twitter, "We got caught, and I take full responsibility." All right. um, I mean, I, honestly, that's really important because, you know, I take full responsibility. A lot of people wouldn't do that, and I think that shows a lot of character that, you can do something wrong and just be like, I did mess up, and that's the only way because he knows in his mind that like if he doesn't just say something like that, it's gonna keep bugging him, or people are gonna keep bugging him, and so it shuts down every single possible like question for him, and people worried about what he's doing. It's just like as soon as you say something like, and I treat this really seriously because in life, I think you need to do that as quickly as possible. Is just if you do something that you think is wrong, you just say it like, you know what, I messed up, and now you can move on because you want to be working as much as you possibly can. And I don't mean, work until you're completely exhausted. I mean, if you're trying to do something interesting for everyone here that's trying to learn data science, machine learning, you know, this counts as learning because we're talking about data science and machine learning. But a lot of YouTube videos that even I get caught up on, it's because I'm trying to take my mind away from things like this, where I did something I think was wrong, and you're angry at someone or whatever, like whatever it is, you just need to throw all that stuff away and just put in the work. So I'm really proud of Elon, and that's he's also really not a perfect person, not even close. I did read his book, and he's a complete ass a lot of the time with employees. He shares a lot of stuff with Steve Jobs, honestly, where you yell at your employees because you care so much about getting stuff done. Also, a little bit about feeling more powerful than people. Elon had an issue with that for sure, especially when PayPal joined, or well, he wasn't PayPal, he was like X.com, and they joined with PayPal, and the CEOs got like a clash there, and he actually got kicked out, basically, or at least put down. So he's not perfect, but I think he's grown a lot now and can say openly, like, yeah, that wasn't good. Um, am I awesome? Well, I just mixed two, and I read, "Am I awesome?" Of course, I'm awesome. Are you working in a company? What do you think? How far one can go in data science and machine learning if he or she is not working in a company? Um, So I will be working in a company. I'm not right now because I'm just finishing up school and I'm on a co-op next term. Next term will be um, with a like a breathing people that help people breathe basically, and so it's going to be studies using neural networks and computer vision to understand people's breathing patterns. I don't want to say too much, nor I haven't started the job yet, so I don't know a huge amount. But basically, yes, I'll be working in a company. And what do I think how far one can go in data science and machine learning if you're not working in a company? Well, if you're not working in a company, you have a huge opportunity that most people don't have, which is one, you don't have someone breathing down your neck and always thinking about whether you're doing a good job. And no, by the way, your employer probably doesn't care as much as you think they do, but it puts you in that environment where you're always thinking about how to do something that'll help somebody else. And so if you are not working at a company currently and you're able to sustain this without going, financially in trouble, then I would push this as long as you possibly could and keep this going because you will gain so many skills by just doing your own thing. Okay. And you have to be smart about it. Okay. You can't just sit there and half ass a day and, all of these different days not doing as much as you should be. You have to take it really seriously. And so that's when I would take time to start a YouTube channel or start a blog every day or, start posting or whatever. And whatever you can to just build your own portfolio up because learning there is a lot of learning at first, especially in data science and machine learning. There is math and there is programming and there is merging the two with making statistical models and moving around data like big data, Spark. There's a lot to learn, absolutely. um, but as long as you make this fun and as long as you're doing it in a way that you can do every day and you want to, then you're doing a good job. So I don't think you need a job to I don't think you're going to get um, stuck because you're not in a job and people are going to look down upon that. I think that you need to push your own portfolio as much as you possibly can and just enjoy it. Okay. Really, really enjoy that you can do your own thing and you can make money off the internet if you don't ever want to get a job. You can at least push your portfolio like crazy if you are looking to get a full time job. So enjoy it. Honestly, I want to just say enjoy the fact that you're not currently working in a company if that's true. Best and worst internship experience. Well, I'm not going to share what specific companies it were, but I don't like my life when I'm not doing something productive. I constantly have an itch to do something that increases my portfolio because it's just how I've been for a very long time. So any job where employers didn't really treat it too seriously, like they're just kind of getting co-ops because people get co-ops or interns. People get interns because that's what the company told them to do. They pick people, and there you go. They have interns. I have had that before, and I don't think it's a great experience. It is helpful because you get something on your name, and even just understanding the business environment is very helpful. How people talk in various businesses, how their computers work, like they're a little bit more locked down and what you have access to, how to talk to people to get access to stuff. It is helpful. It's even all that stuff that's not even really doing the job. It's still, you learn a lot from that, especially putting it on your resume can be helpful regardless of what the experience was. But for me, I'm not a big fan. When I do an intern or I am an intern and they're not really, supporting me, like, sure, maybe I should step up and ask more questions, but you can kind of tell when employers don't care as much as, some other employers do about interns. Uh, you're very welcome for the session. You used to be a full-time DoorDash food delivery driver and you're learning about data science even though you are in software engineering boot camp. That's good. I want to deploy models. Great. Machine learning and deep learning specialization, if you haven't done it already, would highly recommend. The software engineering or at least learning the software engineering side, so that'll be great. You will be very successful, I guarantee. Guarantee it. First part, not getting one yet. Um, the internship, Krish? Yeah, that's okay. Uh, I don't think they're as awesome as a lot of people say they are. It's always, it's something so competitive where, especially in, my university here, they're ridiculously competitive about co-ops and interns and that whole program itself. It's really people make a huge deal about like where you working, are you getting into good company, parental pressure, absolutely. Like parents definitely push for getting jobs and all of that stuff. But honestly, really enjoy every second that you have not in an internship. Not to say they're terrible, they're great. That you earn money, you learn a lot, you meet some really great people, but it is a different kind of experience with someone breathing down your neck, and it's not as fun, in my opinion, as doing your own kind of thing. Uh, So honestly, just spend every possible second that you can while you're not working for somebody, doing your own thing. And I don't mean playing video games. I mean increasing your portfolio, not just making projects, although projects are interesting, doing something that really makes a portfolio, like a big YouTube channel or something that promotes you in particular, and not just you showing stuff like deep learning or whatever. That's very important, and I would do that if you ever trying to get a job, absolutely. But yourself, like post on the internet. Um, it's a different kind of marketing than just proving stuff versus actually advertising yourself as a great candidate for pretty much anybody. I think more data scientists should deploy their projects and make a live demo with them. I absolutely agree with that. Yes, that's why I pushed that Flask app, and that's why I have shown. Actually, I forget for which group of people it is. I believe for non-subscribers or subscribers, I forget. My Flask video shows as the top, and that's because yes, you really need to get out there and deploy your models, show it to people, because hiding all the stuff in the background. That's why I do YouTube like crazy, because every single thing is public. It is built into an algorithm that shows people based off of how popular it is. That's how you prove that you're a great candidate. It's not by hiding stuff in a Jupyter notebook that nobody's going to look at. And if you do have all this Jupyter notebook code, great. Go write a Medium blog about it. Um, at least throw it all on your GitHub and drive people to your GitHub somehow. How do you maintain the dependencies when installing TensorFlow GPU? TensorFlow GPU is not a thing anymore. I don't think. TensorFlow GPU is just TensorFlow. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I doubt I'm wrong there because I use TensorFlow on my own computer. I just say import TensorFlow, install TensorFlow, and I've set up CUDA so that it uses the GPU itself. So I don't think that that's even a thing. Your conda breaks every time due to the auto upgrade of Python, Bash, and server. So I actually don't use conda. I have used conda, and every time I do, I have trouble with it, and I have stuck to just pip, VN virtual environments. I found it's a lot easier, and I'm pretty sure what I did was pip install TensorFlow, and then if you need to use the GPU, you need to visit their page that shows how to install CUDA, and I have that. You know, I have that set up. I did that a few weeks ago. Is there a video where the exact installation process on the server is shown for all the, well, what packages? So like, oh, okay, you're welcome. Yeah, no, basically just look up how to use TensorFlow on the GPU and ignore all of this Conda stuff, in my opinion. If you want to use Conda, if you really, really need to use Conda, then okay. But I would just or read the tutorial on it. I didn't think it was too difficult. The term is CUDA, CUDA. DS for a Empowerment Corp. I don't know what you're saying. Is opening applications for new. Oh, is this a company? DS for a Empowerment Correlation. One is opening applications for a new cohort. They partner with companies. It is free data science bootcamp backed by SoftBank. Okay, I honestly just have to ignore that. I don't really know what you're talking about. Sorry. Hi, may I ask if there are remote work opportunities in the States for someone working in Europe? What would your be advice? So, okay, so you're working in Europe, or you're in Europe, and you want to stay in Europe, and you want to work in the United States. I can let you know that that's not going to be a super easy thing to do. Uh, and you can. There probably are opportunities. You're going to really limit yourself. They allow remote a lot more from countries like Canada because we're so close buddies with the US, but from the Europe, I'm sure it's a thing, but you're going to be missing a lot of job opportunities unless you either go to the United States or go to Canada. So I'd probably recommend doing that if you could, if that's what you're really interested in. But no, I don't know too much about specifically from Europe to the United States. I just know that you'll be missing a lot of opportunities, but they will probably exist. What it's actually, I should specify how I would find this out. So I would go to companies in the United States. Luckily, a lot of companies in the United States, Nvidia, all of the FANG companies, you know, a million companies that you'd think of are in the United States. Go to their website, check out if you're eligible to apply. It's a long process. It's slow. It's a day or 2 days or a week of applying and looking at stuff, but you have to take that stuff. You have to take that stuff seriously if that's something that you're trying to do. Um, what do I think of deep learning frameworks like PyTorch and TensorFlow? I just learned that Tesla is using PyTorch. That doesn't overly surprise me. PyTorch is a little bit easier for computer vision, specifically object detection stuff. So which one would you advise to? Okay, so Tesla is using PyTorch. Well, that completely just it removes what was above. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying in my mind, I was assuming that they at least use neural networks for Tesla. So yes, if they use PyTorch, then they are. Um, so basically, for a beginner, I would absolutely recommend doing TensorFlow. So, or when I mean TensorFlow, I actually mean Keras. So really, 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 really would recommend just doing Keras first. But if there's a reason that you want to step into PyTorch, then go ahead. It's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly fine. Just as beginners, there's just so much more code. The better courses that are in Keras, you'll see Keras a lot more often. So probably that. Know something about pinning the Python package in Conda or creating a virtual end that throws up a different issue with the new not activating, saying shell hasn't properly configured. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not trying to be rude by this. I really hate dealing with this stuff, and so that's why I use Google Colab as much as completely possible. But I could try making a video about that, just doing the virtual environment, getting TensorFlow set up. It's, look at the VM tutorial, look at TensorFlow CUDA tutorial, and there's also just bugs like that happen all the time, and you have to do workarounds, and it's really annoying. And I've wasted so many hours doing that kind of thing. So try to figure out in 1 day or two, get around that. Flask one worked great. Dab, nice dab emoji. Good, good. Can we give a brief on you? ESG, is that beside what? Can we give a brief on, like, you want me to summarize myself? Is that what you mean? While you answer that, I'm gonna just do this anyway for a lot of people because I think a lot of people don't know. Um, who I am, basically. Yes, I'm at the University of Waterloo in Canada, Ontario, and I'll be graduating from there in a couple months. I've done five co-ops or slash internships. For all of them have been software. The last few have been machine learning stuff. So my last one was at Loblaw, which is the biggest grocery store. They own almost every single grocery store in all of Canada, which is pretty important for us. But it was a good co-op, and we used TensorFlow and Keras. So basically, I was thrown into something. I obviously can't talk too much about it, but I was thrown into an environment where they're using TensorFlow. I'm sure that's open knowledge, and they were asking me to help with some models there that they were doing. Okay, so really, really good job, and I think it was a great experience. Probably easily my best job so far, and a big part of that is just the environment that I was thrown in, both with the people, a small team. I think small teams are a lot better if you can get into that, and just knowing that I was going to be in a TensorFlow virtual like software environment is really good. Can we? Okay, how to improve nerves in interviews? Okay, I'm going to be doing something really stupid, but seriously, I'm staring at you. I'm talking to you, and I am do not care. Okay, what I mean by this is that you will get so much more comfortable when you put yourself on the camera and you just start doing stuff like this. That is my biggest advice to improve nerves in interviews, is to talk to people. Talk, 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 whether they are actively responding to you, or you're doing it on a webcam, or you're just making videos and there's people basically listening to you because when people watch the video, they'll be listening to you. It feels pretty similar. That's my biggest recommendation, is just to get in front of a camera and see yourself eh, looking stupid and you can see how nervous you are, watch the video back and be like, you know what? I wouldn't hire that person because they looked nervous. And sure, you can say, oh, companies would never not hire someone because they look nervous, and that's not something that an employer would do. It's illegal and mean or whatever. Like, no, honestly, 99% of an interview, other than at FANG companies where it's almost entirely technical for some points, it's just if someone likes you or not. And they can't like you unless you're confident and happy with who you are. Because if you're nervous and you're unconfident, that means that there's something you're hiding. And I'm not necessarily meaning this that this is actually true. I just mean it looks like there's something you're hiding. Like, are you nervous if I ask you a particular question because you don't know the answer, or are you not good at talking to people? Are you genuinely just nervous about talking to people? Well, that's the most important thing you can do. And so if you're not, I'm not calling out anyone in particular by saying this, just to be explicitly clear. Make sure that you're very good at English. Okay. So if the job's really not in English, okay, be good at that language, but 99% of jobs are in English. And so be really, really good at just talking in a way that people can understand you. Apparently, I need to work on that because people are asking for captions, and so I obviously still need improvement on how I talk as well. I think it's an ever improving thing, but I try my best to talk in a way that people understand me, and that is extremely important. Being nervous is honestly going to happen for a long time. I think that until you have a bunch of interviews. By the way, I've had I'm really not trying to brag by this. I'm trying to do the exact opposite and say that I've had 20, 30, 40, I don't know, probably around 50 interviews for similar jobs. And so, sure, that would definitely help. That helps a lot. But I was still really nervous for those. And it wasn't until, I got really confident in who I am. Like, just, you know, I know that I don't know everything. If you ask me stuff that I don't know, I will very, very openly be like, I don't know. And an employer needs to hear that rather than them asking you a question. And I know I'm kind of just going on random tangents back and forth, but it's whatever pops into my mind that I think is worth saying. For example, like if you actually don't know something, then sure, they have the right to not take you because they wanted you to know the answer to something and you didn't know it. Well, you couldn't do anything about that anyway. No matter what you said, you couldn't get around it. But instead of, many people would do is you would answer, yes, I do know that thing. And then, you pivot around and keep saying stuff that's not really, the answer to the question. There can be tactical ways of doing that where you kind of pivot around stuff. But really be open about, exactly who you are, what you know, what you can bring to them, and just really focus in an interview about what you can bring to them and not about what you don't know. Okay, so don't be like, yeah, you're right, I don't know this thing, I should spend some time learning this. Sure, say that, that's great. Except make the focus of the interview exactly what you want them to hear. And so do this in a speech a couple times. Go ahead beforehand and be like, okay, what is it that I can bring to them? And I can tell them very confidently that I can bring to them. Well, talking about Elon Musk as earlier, he applies or he interviews people by asking them what problems they've solved. Okay, not about what they do or do not know. Okay, not technical questions necessarily, about what they have done. And so if that person, he says, if that person is actually the one that solves this difficult problem, then they'll be able to explain it from 50 different points of view. As in, I could give you for example, Arshia, if you're still listening, we have this project. Okay, it's a phone app where you have Know Your Fruit. It's called Know Your Fruit, and you take a picture of a fruit, and it's going to send that to a Heroku client, which sends that to a GCP model, and then it's going to return all this information using a neural network that's on the GCP model. It's going to predict what the fruit is, and that'll dictate the HTML page or what we see on the site. So it basically gives us information for a fruit. Okay. Well, that's one way of explaining it. I also could have explained it in 50 other ways. If he asked me what sort of problems I ran into, well, I could start saying about how we were using a different framework at first and we didn't like how that worked, or we couldn't figure out this particular piece of it. We tried for a while and wanted to do something else. Or, we actually had a different drawing of everything altogether. Like we made an initial drawing and of where the information is passed, and it's not even close to what we ended with So, yeah, many different angles. And so, what I'm trying to say here for you for interview advice is just know something really, really well. Have some project or my YouTube channel. Like, I know that really, really well because I clearly have done a lot of it. And you just need something that you've done a lot of so that you can talk about that. An interview is only 20, 30 minutes, and occasionally it's 45, but that's 20 of it is a technical interview. And so, sure, have done leak code and coding stuff, which will really help. But the secret to doing well in an interview is talking about what you want to talk about. Absolutely answer the questions, answer them honestly, but gear it and keep talking about what you want to talk about. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. And just for the nervous thing, yeah, you'll be nervous, but you need to realize that it really doesn't matter what happens either way, and your life is going to be totally fine whether this happens or not. And sure, if it really negatively impacts your life, if you don't get one, I'm sorry, that sucks, but keep trying. You're going to be fine. Just do not ever feel, sad about these things. Just pick yourself up, throw it into work, keep working hard, and you're going to be just fine. I believe in you like crazy. Okay. Okay, where was I? So interesting. How do genetic algorithms work? Hi, by the way. Hello. Um, So basically, genetic algorithms work and I'm going to, speak of explaining this 50 different ways, I'm going to explain genetic algorithms in a very high level manner, which is basically you can picture, how did we supposedly, turn into humans or whatever? It's survival of the fittest. And so basically, there's an initial population, say 100 people. They're not really people, but I'm going to call them people. 100 things, and they have a bunch of different characteristics about them. Well, say we all fight each other, okay? So we all fight each other. We have some way of scoring how well we did, okay? So maybe I won 10 of my fights. Someone else lost almost all of their fights. Well, who would survive? Who would do better? Who would we want to bring over to the next generation of people after we're all gonna have passed away? Well, we'd want the people that have done well. Okay, we don't want the people that lost all these fights. They don't seem overly useful. Maybe they do, and so we might grab some of them anyway. Except what we want to do is get pieces of information from people that are good. And so we're going to basically mix up people where we have person A and person B. If both of them did well, person A has some qualities that they did made them perform well. Person B has other qualities that made them perform well. Maybe we'll mix that into a new person called person AB, which has the great qualities of A and the great qualities of B. And if we do that for, 100 other people, we've now probably made a generation that's better than the last. And if we keep doing that over and over again, we keep mixing these qualities, then we should have a better group of people. It's the same thing as algorithms work, except, you're actually going to solve different problems with this. But look up the YouTube video genetic algorithms Flappy Bird. Okay, they'll show you basically they have a bunch of different Flappy Birds that I just smacked something that are doing different strategies, and so actually I'm going to combine strategies of these guys because this worked well. I hope that's the idea. And there's also this idea of mutation, which is basically a very small chance of something random happening, and that way we don't get ever stuck in some population that's kind of sort of okay but not amazing. We keep mixing it up. What is the first? And by the way, if you're curious, I think I have on my GitHub some Pokemon genetic algorithms thing. What is the first best resource that you would suggest for machine learning, deep learning, NLP for a newbie? I would suggest the machine learning course by Andrew Ng down below. I would suggest the deep learning specialization by Andrew Ng down below. I would suggest the NLP specialization that is not down below, all on Coursera, 100%. So the links are down there if you want them. If you're trying to show off, highly recommend a certification because you're doing the course anyway, but they are more money. So, uh, you know, those are the best free resources, and you can pay if you want to. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Usually people do not look as nervous as they think they are. It's good to remember that. I 100% completely agree with that. Usually people do not look as nervous as they think they are. Yes, okay? Realize that when you're walking down the street and you meet somebody that you haven't talked to in 2 years and you feel kind of nervous because you ran into them and you're stuck talking to them, and you might think that you're so nervous, but the other person is doing the exact same frickin' thing where they're looking at you and they're thinking, oh, I haven't seen this person for 2 years. I'm so nervous about this. And so just realize that they're more nervous than you are, and that is exactly what I do in every single time I'm talking to somebody new. Is that I realize like actually, if I'm nervous, they're probably nervous too, and if they're nervous, I genuinely have no reason to be nervous because they're the one that's nervous, and so you just stop caring. Like you really just stop caring, and you'll be yourself. Some individuals may be deaf, or they are training an ML model and want the captions. Um, yes, that's fine. I wasn't trying to say people couldn't be deaf. I was just saying that I I want to speak clear so that everyone can hear me. Thank you. I have the impression that in contrast to other domains, ML has a lot of research oriented companies. By the way, I wasn't trying to be rude there. I probably sounded pretty rude. I just mean like I didn't mean anything. I didn't mean anything rude. Um, so you have the impression that in contrast to other domains, machine learning has a lot of research-oriented companies like OpenAI, DeepMind, etc. Do I see that increasing in the future? Well, yeah, I mean, it's really considered research because like it's new stuff. So like you wouldn't really consider like most software companies as research because we're using technologies that have been established for a while, or maybe you might be using the newest React framework and they can do something cool, sure. But I mean, machine learning is relatively a new idea. I mean, sure, it's been around for a very, very long time, except with the increase of better algorithms, more data, better, better machines, we're able to do a lot of this new stuff. So it is kind of considered research. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely expect that to keep happening. I think I speak with a very clear accent. I'm very happy with that. CC is probably good for people working on their English, however. Yeah, that's also fair. I agree with that. And thank you. I appreciate that. Will OpenAI and automated software be a threat to our jobs in the future? Uh, I think AI is a threat to us. Like, definitely military applications are absolutely happening. So I think that's a threat. A threat to our jobs in the future? No. So the reason is that it's not because I think they're going to die off and they're not useful and they're not changing the field. I think all of those things are happening. I think AI is changing everything. The thing is, whenever something's being used, it doesn't delete jobs, it changes jobs. So, a cashier, for example, their job now is actually, most of them, is to stand at the checkout, and so basically, I'm picturing a Walmart. So I don't know if there's a Walmart in every country, but it's a very popular place for where I'm from anyway. Whatever, your grocery store, and you walk in, you buy your stuff, and then you go to the to buy your food, and you can choose either the people that are getting your food checked, or you can choose the self checkout, and that's a computer that scans everything and takes your payment system, and you're good to go. Well, the people that lost their jobs from the cashier, they used to be scanning food, and now they are standing watching people getting ready if people have trouble with the self checkout, and they can go assist them there and adjust the machine. So it's a really perfect example of saying no, their jobs aren't lost. They have to gain new skills to stay with the adapting system. And so it's the same thing in this field of machine learning is okay, so you're using pandas and you wrote some code that did some data analysis. Well, by the way, you can do one line of data analysis and get a huge pandas report by just writing one line of Python code. And so the job isn't lost because we don't need data analysts now. It's because you need to be able to read this report and maybe automate something, do something with this report that is now generated on the fly. It's you're not going to lose a job. You need to stay relevant. You need to hopefully read research papers and keep with what's really relevant, learn those adapting skills, and you won't have trouble losing a job. There's no losing jobs. It is changing the field. Um, I want to shift my career towards a data scientist. Awesome. But you're not sure where and how to start. Can you please advise me on the same? So I'm going to point you to the video that's down there about my, um, what's it called? My roadmap idea, which it says machine learning. Machine learning I consider synonymous with being a data scientist, and so I would highly recommend watching that video, doing that the work that's involved there. Basically, I recommend getting a random start, basic general start to data science with maybe IBM data science. Again, there's actually a discount down below if you're looking to get that certificate. And all of the other material, machine learning course, deep learning certification or specialization, TensorFlow, natural language processing, computer vision. I have that all set up in a line. There's also the cloud in there, maybe data structures and algorithm stuff. So I have that. I have that roadmap video down below. Take a look at that. Take a look at the description if you don't want to watch the whole video. That says in order. There's also a PDF that says all of that information there. Facing issues with some libraries. I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, I really wish I could answer these types of questions in here, but they're so specific. Just know that I suck at it too. Like dealing with these libraries and errors that are going on in virtual environments and Conda. Nobody's good at it. You get a lot better at it by just fighting and solving these problems and spending a day or two with messing around with different libraries and virtual environments. But yeah, it sucks. Believe me, you'll get it you'll get it to work out. Just keep fighting with it. My main focus on the many focus only on the technical skills and ignore the behavior, cultural fit. Yes. So seriously, unless you're talking about a FANG level interview, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, or something very similar like Microsoft, 99% of the interview is being a likable, trusted, competent person that can communicate the results. So you can convey that no matter what you're talking about, whether you're talking about sports. I know my friend all the time starts talking about sports in interviews. Is that relevant? Not really, but it shows that you're likable. It shows that you care about what they're thinking and you're just resonating with them. It is extremely, extremely overlooked, and people don't think it's important just to communicate well, or at least you might think it's important to communicate well, but so much more of a focus is placed on the technical skills. It is really, really just being a person that they like and trust. And then after that, yes, you do need to know all of that stuff, but that's not the focus. The focus is being a great person and then showing that you know everything as well. Data cleaning is a must have skill for any data scientist. Can I give some tips and tools for effective data cleaning? You know what bugs me, and this is not meant to be rude. You know what bugs me is the term data cleaning. Because you know what almost every single data scientist does to clean their data is they remove rows that have any null values. And that is the only reason, pretty much the only reason why data is messy, other than specifics in a company. Like if you have, you're supposed to start this code with a D and it actually started with a number. Okay, that's data cleaning. It's very manual work. And so this is just getting good with Python. By the way, again, seriously, most of the time we just discard rows that have no values, or people might impute values, which just means, maybe I should put this value as a 5 instead of NA because the mean value for the column was 5. So that's pretty much what imputation means. And data cleaning, it just means being good at a programming language. Okay, they all are good at this. Python is especially good at this. Pandas, it has a lot of stuff built in already. And so it's just manual grunt work, like applying a function to a column that says if you have a letter A at the start, actually discard this row or change it. It's not too difficult. Data cleaning, of course, people are going to use this term because you need your data to be cleaned, and to have the data to be cleaned, sometimes you need to clean the data. I know I sound like an idiot, but that's really all that it is. And so after you clean it, which just means write some Python code to get rid of the stuff that's in there, you're good to go. So I'm just trying to say that my tips and tools, well, probably you're just going to impute values or remove rows that are bad, and just get good at Python code, and you can run stuff to get rid of it. How to maximize the learning outcomes and benefits of Coursera. You need to watch the video 20 times if you don't understand it. Seriously. Gradient descent. Okay, gradient descent is an extremely important concept in there, and you probably won't get it the first time. Maybe even the second time or the third time. Keep watching that, really think about it, and the most important thing that anyone could do is, while learning something, is close their eyes And can you still think about what's going on? I'm not again not trying to show off, but I'm saying how I know that I know the fundamentals. I did not look at a single resource for implementing gradient descent in simple linear regression for the course I recently did this. I just thought about it, close my eyes and be like, well, if this is my function and I'm trying to minimize this loss function, then this is the derivative. I derive the derivative by hand, and then this makes sense. Where if I keep doing this iterative algorithm, that must be the algorithm. And I looked it up and it was perfectly right. So you need to close your eyes and know that, like, just because you watched something and you think that you understood it a little bit, you need to close your eyes and be like, no, actually, I could write this out for you. And you don't need to know every single thing. Like, it bothers me a lot when you watch like a math lecture. I'm finishing up university. They'll do a math lecture that's an hour long, and they do a derivation that you really, really don't care about. And like, it just gives some result that they're going to be using, and then you need to know the result, or either memorize it or know that you can look up the result later. So honestly, it's just definitely thinking about what you actually need to know and knowing that you know those things by closing your eyes and thinking about it. The exercise notebooks have only a few parts missing, which you can easily answer after watching the video. Long term retention and ability to code from scratch and is very difficult to acquire. Well, so that's the whole piece of like knowing what you need to actually know in the future. I genuinely don't think you need to be able to derive for example, the gradient descent update rule for a convolutional neural network or for an RNN or, all of this really nitty gritty stuff. Should you understand a little bit how they work? Sure. A general idea of how it's learning its parameters, what parameters are actually being learned, all that nice stuff. But yeah, the exercises they have are great. They they get the important pieces out of there, which is like, okay, what are they at a very high level? What do I need to change for this to work? Okay, I need to reshape it here. I need to pass this value to this function. It's great. I actually genuinely love their notebooks. Uh, yeah, cool. Okay, good. I'm actually glad that the genetic algorithm made sense. Yeah, and then yeah, so honestly, genetic. I'm having trouble saying it. Genetic algorithms is actually my introduction to machine learning. My friend brought it up. I'm learning genetic algorithms, and I said, "Okay, I'll learn about that." And it's an extremely general thing that you could do. It's almost the same as reinforcement learning. Anyone that actually knows what they're talking about here would yell at me when I say that, but it's very similar to reinforcement learning, kind of just learning through, not necessarily trial and error, but there's nothing telling the function. It's not like supervised learning, which is saying like this is the answer that you should have got, and adjust this, make this change. It's kind of just doing its own thing and learning from doing things over and over again. And it's actually pretty easy to understand genetic algorithms if you actually put in the work to go and learn them. I'm not trying to be rude here. If you actually really read about them, they just have like four functions. It's like mutation, pairing people up. I forgot what the term is. It's pretty cool stuff. Actually, I would really recommend learning that. And this is the first time I've ever talked about it, not only in a live but on the entire YouTube channel, and they're great. Yeah. How do I think the data scientist job will change with the emergence of auto ML? So automated machine learning is, we'll continue to automate everything. It's just that you'll just adjust to whatever the platform is. So I mean that super generally in that whatever tools a company is using today, if they implement something new, you're going to be using those tools and you're going to follow along with that. Of course, companies will be very slow, and stuff like academia and researchers and just the frameworks will hit this a lot quicker than most companies will. If you were to start a startup, they're going to be trying to keep up with these things and do that. But you're just going to be adjusting to whatever they happen to switch, and tools will be tools. If they're popular, then you'll go and use them. If you don't like them, then you probably don't have to. Do I like to take handwritten notes from Coursera? Um, so this is a very opinionated question, and I'm going to answer it very opinionated. I don't write handwritten notes ever. When I'm learning something, I do not ever write a note. And that does not mean the 14 people watching should not do that. I think they're great. I think it's mostly just because I like to learn by closing my eyes and really thinking about it as if I was writing it rather than actually writing it down by hand. But writing is great. It's proven to be useful. It's I know it's useful. I just don't really do it. It's commonly said that online courses or Kaggle do not give an accurate impression of what a data scientist does, focusing on model construction, which is considered a small part of the pipeline. So sort of. I understand why that's being said. So Kaggle definitely does uh, do the hard part for you, which is establish the problem, establish the data set that is going to be involved in that. You could technically, I think, get information from elsewhere, except generally people use the data set that's already provided. And they do the tough part for you, which is that. And again, speaking about Elon Musk, he always thinks about, what are the problems we're trying to solve. Once you got the problem, then, just get the solution. And that's kind of what Kaggle, they just said get the solution to the problem. And so in a company, they don't have answers. Like they have data. Quite genuinely, they often don't even have questions. They're just busy people, busy managers that are busy doing their own thing, and you're thrown into an analytics role and you have data amongst you. So you need to come up with the problem, look around, what problem are they trying to solve? Or, not necessarily what are they trying to solve, what problems are they having? Do you think that this data is available to solve it? And go ahead and figure out what you need to do, what data you need to get, what you need to do to the data, what model you need to make to go ahead and solve that problem. So I definitely agree with that's being said. Um, I do think Kaggle is great for many other things, for making machine learning models. It's really interesting the vast like diversity they have there. Like it really is a big ecosystem of time series forecasting, suggesting like a suggestion model. I'm forgetting what the term is. Um, all these different problems, computer vision, natural language processing, and they have that in an environment that's easy to go on to. So I think it's great. But no, I think I agree with what's being said. Not taking notes. I discovered I should do it rather late while being undergraduate. Yeah, so take notes. um, I mean, so it depends the environment. Basically, if everything is written down somewhere, like a video or notes that are provided by a professor or whatever you're trying to learn, I see no point of writing notes unless you are trying to prove that you know it or to try and help yourself figure it out at the time. For the purpose, and taking notes generally means writing down things so that you can remember them and look at them later, which, summarizing information is extremely useful, both for your brain and just for your brain later for looking at the summarized information. But if everything's written down, I don't see any inherent need to write any notes. Of course, if you want to, if you like to, then 100% please do that. It's just, there's not really a need. Can I please suggest some websites where I can get publicly available datasets? So honestly, I doubt you'd have trouble running away from Kaggle. They also let me actually show you something here, which you may not be familiar with. Kira's datasets. They have a bunch of things right here. So these ones you'll see I very commonly use in my videos. MNIST dataset is the first one. It's handwritten digits. I don't know what yeah. So basically in Kira's, it's so easy to get this. This loads it in, and here's the example. You need to do this one line to load your dataset into the program, into your Python. You just get this tuple. Kira's, you import Kira's datasets MNIST load data, and it gives you this NumPy arrays, which is exactly what you want. So they have a bunch of these, not too many, but basically anything that's very, very, very commonly used for machine learning, like benchmarks for algorithms. And that is where I would do most of your work on. If you're looking for a more interesting project, then you probably should just Google that data set, like X fruit data set, trees data set, whatever. But for just playing around with models, you can learn a surprisingly massive amount of information just by doing playing around with this data set, and it's so easy to get. You just load it in with the Python code right there. Um, Data scientist, data analyst, data engineer, and statistician. Could I comment on the difference? Right. Oh, discovering that you learn better listening real time by focusing on note taking. 100%. Yeah. Make sure that the most important thing is knowing that y- you're spending time doing something useful. And if you need to write down notes because you're not going to get the information again unless you write it down, then absolutely that's worth doing it. Um, but you need to spend time doing things that are actually helping you. And so a lot of the time, people write notes that because people said write notes, you're supposed to write notes in university. People write notes, they're not following the lecture. You have no idea what's happening, but you're writing down stuff. Um, my, you know, this guy's smarter than me, but my friend, just the whole time in university, never wrote a single note, just looked at the screen, actually followed what they were doing, actually listened to the words that he was saying in the right order, and it kind of made sense. Maybe you didn't understand every single piece, but it made a lot of sense. And so I would definitely recommend just doing something at every second, unless you're actively breaking. If you're obviously, not working or you're just playing around, then that's fine. But if you're in an environment like a lecture hall or your desk and you're working on something, you need to be spending that time doing something that is actually useful. And it's again kind of common sense when it's said aloud, but it's also something that's not said often enough. Is just work on something that is actually helping you. Not that someone said is helping you, not that you think is helping you because, it's known to help people, like actually do stuff that is being useful. So data scientist, data analyst, data engineer, and statistician. I might turn this piece into a video, I don't know. Um, so data scientist versus analyst, I will cover first. Basically, so data scientist I consider synonymous with machine learning. Okay, so I don't, people might disagree and it's written all over the place, but I don't consider you a data scientist unless you know machine learning concepts. Okay, maybe you're not a deep learning expert, and I would recommend you would be, but a data scientist, in my opinion, uses machine learning. Okay, you probably know what principal component analysis does, you probably know what a random forest at least can do, and what neural networks are. You need to know how to train models. So regression, probably know that. And so what you actually do, well, you make those models. You use data and then you solve problems with those things. You might also use more generic techniques that an analyst might do as well. Like a data analyst doesn't know machine learning. So that's really, if I was to categorize the difference, I don't know what's written down in the definitions that are out there, but data scientist versus analyst. Data analyst, I assume you don't know machine learning, and data scientist, I assume you know machine learning. So data analyst, what can you do if you don't know machine learning? Well, you can still do SQL queries and move data around. You can do a lot of different analytics work, like looking at different aggregations, even just looking at averages and different groups of, like if you know the SQL group by, you can do that and get a lot of different interesting results that'll help a company. You can display that very well for them with a report. Um, you can make a report that's automatically generated like every night that does something for your manager. Make some graphs just ad hoc, as in like randomly one day. I think it's important to show your manager that you're making these graphs. I think an analyst would do that. I think a data scientist might do that too, but I think they know machine learning, and you'd probably try to use machine learning because it's powerful. So data engineer is similar, but their main task is to move data. Okay, they obviously might do a lot of analytics stuff as well because that it's still moving data, but it's more so in the ability to people need data. A lot of different people. Your manager needs some piece of data. You need data, no matter who you are, data scientist, analyst, a manager. People need data. And so big data engineers, their job is really to manage this in a way using something like Spark and Hadoop so that you can get data at the right time. It's scheduled, hopefully get people to have up to date data, whoever needs up to date data. Your manager probably cares about, every single night they want new data. Maybe your machine learning model needs like live data, so they could try to get that to you. And yeah, they're going to use stuff like Spark or Hadoop to figure that out. And a statistician, well, you're kind of like an analyst that instead of just doing like, how do I say this in a way that actually makes sense? A statistician, you probably work with something called p-values if you're actually a statistician. It's about mainly hypothesis testing. And yes, that still might mean doing something like regression. They're still doing p-values and hypothesis testing there, even though it's a little bit hidden. um, Different experiments from like a testing point of view to see if this is true, not necessarily for the purpose of automating some solution, but for the purpose of discovery, and then maybe making a model on it if you're interested. It's more so about actually learning about data than technically implementing some solution to fix it on the fly. How data science can help us in real life. Um, in real life, like I mean, everything is data. So I think in terms of being a data scientist, no matter where I go, like you need data to make different decisions, and everything that I do, everything that I base my next decision off of, is not necessarily making a neural network model in my head. It does mean that for my YouTube channel or whatever, I'm always looking at analytics. I'm always thinking about what I can do to have the strongest impact and to make users like the happiest. And honestly, that's data science is it helps you everywhere. I know a lot of people, probably even some people in here, that say like I'm trying to decide between software engineering, or Krish was saying this, software engineering versus like machine learning and data science. Well, believe me, analytics are going to follow you everywhere. Even in software engineering, just SQL comes up a lot, and you'll see there's a lot of overlap. So, yeah, data science is great. Do I think AI is still in its infancy? Everything's in its infancy. Honestly, whatever you see right now is, it's going to blow up. It's going to change a lot. Society is going to keep changing. You know, Neural networks again were in like the 50s or 60s or whatever, and backpropagation was like in the 70s or so for neural networks, and that was a freakishly long time ago. And yet, still, we've made a bunch of applications. I'm sure a lot more is to come, and it's going to be very interesting. If you're looking to start like a company or whatever, machine learning is really, really good place to do that. So many companies like every day are being sold for like $1 million, $1 billion, because they just do something new with machine learning that uh, you know isn't necessarily that crazy difficult. Some computer vision company or doing something with natural language processing, and it's really helpful. So yeah, it's in its infancy for sure. Big companies still don't know how to make revenue off of AI. Um, some of them, some companies do lose money off of AI. Google pours billions into it, and I doubt they get billions back. But uh, everything that a company is doing is not for the current. It's for 3, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because that's how you make a live company. It's not caring about. It's sure there's definitely a subset of people in the company that want to make sure the daily experience is great for users, but in general, if a company is pouring money into something, it's not because they think tomorrow or a year from now or 2 years from now it's going to make them some money. They mean in the future that this is something that's really worthwhile. So believe me, they probably know what they're doing. All these big companies, if they're pouring money into AI, I'm sure it's for a reason, and they'll probably have something up their sleeve. Kenji posted that KFC needs a data scientist on Twitter. Okay. Uh, yeah, sure. What is your impression of explainable artificial intelligence? Do I see it being possible for the most powerful models like deep network models? You're very welcome. Right. Okay, so basically, explainable. The easiest thing to explain, using the same word here, is so linear regression. I always try to go back to that. To explain it, what that means is I know what the inputs are what the inputs in the model are having an effect of on the output of the model. As in, I know if I change this by this amount, this is going to affect the model. It's pretty much what we mean by explainable AI. There's some other pieces in there like bias of like racial bias or whatever about all that stuff, but for the most part, we just generally mean you know, looking if I change the age of my person from 7 to 8, how does that impact what I think their height will change by? And so this is really easy in a linear model. It's just like a linear amount. And as opposed to a deep learning model, which is non-linear, it's something weird. Okay, it's not a the derivative's not the same everywhere in the function. So there are libraries. This actually came up a lot in my last co-op. My last internship, they were doing a lot of trying to figure out how to explain these models because the business loves stuff to be explained. Hence, the business likes easy stuff like linear regression, where that predictive power is just not there. Like it's just not going to be nearly as accurate as predicting as something more complicated and less explainable, less interpretable deep learning models. So I think honestly, maybe other people have a different opinion on this. I think that there's just too big a focus on in companies about being able to explain these things and interpreting it when it should be more about like, no, is it working? Is it doing what we want it to? Is it predicting well? Because that's 99% of the output is not if we can interpret it or not. It's about whether this is actually doing a good job. About note taking, I explained a very good the concept of self-reflection. It's something commonly not taught. Yeah, honestly, you just need to know that you're doing something that's useful and that you know that you have learned something. Like, you don't need to have learned everything necessarily. You just need to know what's a good piece to that'll help you in the future, what's actually going to make your life better to have learned. Uh, Maybe to be able to summarize that information, sure, write it down if you want, or just say it to somebody or yourself. But yeah, I agree. Um, right, right. Yep. So once you start working, does that mean you'll see me less, just like your parents? Well, that's kind of sad. I hope not. So I will not be able to do lives in the middle of the day. Maybe I'll ask like for, maybe a long lunch where I do an hour once. Um, I'll probably move my live streams to the weekends because I won't be working there, and the YouTube output may be hurt, but honestly, I just I need money like everybody else, and so currently, YouTube and advertising doesn't make quite enough to sustain this all the time. And so yeah, I mean, I'll be working, and so that's fine. It'll be a really fun job. I'm really excited for that job. It'll be by far the best job I've ever had, and so yeah, it's gonna be great. Will you see me less? Possibly. I really hope not, but uh, stick around because believe me, in the future, this is the small piece of the YouTube channel is whatever we have here. It's going to be a lot better. So, and I really appreciate every support, every piece of support that everybody brings. It means so much to me. Yeah, thank you so much for supporting. And yes, I'll be there. Sure, there'll be periods of my life when I go in and out of. I'll never stop YouTube. I doubt unless the platform literally dies and there's no point of using YouTube anymore. If so, I'll be using a different social media. But yeah, no, I'll be there, and the output might maybe decrease a little bit, but I'll be there. Please help me to understand if I'm doing HDFS. That's the Hadoop file system, right? Uh, DFS, is that put command to move data into? Oh, um, I really can't answer this question. Sorry. Yeah, the specifics about Hadoop, I honestly, I don't really know it too much. I know what it does. I know what you'd want to do with it, but I'm not going to be able to answer technical questions about Hadoop. Sorry. Um, okay, so I think I'm gonna call it right here if there's no other questions. I do I'll stick around if you guys. So let me know in the chat if anyone's here, if you want to play like a game or whatever, if you want to hang out and just do something fun. But I think I'm done with specifically the QA part. Um, Mathematica's the Wolfram Alpha, right? That's interesting. I don't really know too much. Thanks everybody. Really appreciate it. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, looks like I'm gonna just gonna call it then. And again, thanks a bunch, Arshia, for the dollar donation. That was really nice of you. You're very welcome. Yeah, the Wolfram language. Yeah, yeah, it's cool. I've looked into it before. It is actually pretty interesting. And yeah, okay, I'll see y'all next time. And yeah, keep an eye out. I do want to say before I go that um, I'm not sure if it's true now, but I will have the membership. It's just members for my channel. There's going to be 3 different tiers. So check that out. There's a really cheap option, which is just showing like your name highlighted, and you'll be more supportive and loyal every time. And there's a couple other ones, different options. So keep your eye out on that if that's something you're interested in. And yeah, I really appreciate your support. How to know? Yes, I absolutely will see you soon. Don't worry. How to start learning basic on ML with basic knowledge of math. I'm just going to cut this and say, yeah, check out the video down below. I do have that video that I would say to start learning basic. Um, to start with the machine learning stuff, yeah, follow that video that says the order of how to do that, and that's how I would do it if I was to start over. I'm gonna cut it. So thank you everybody. Really appreciate the support. You've been awesome as always, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.